Dad joke of the year. Came up with it yesterday. What do you call a bad lemon?
What do you call a bad lemon? I don't know. Lay it on me.
A lemon.
I don't think that qualifies. Okay, fine. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's
I
good.
mean, it's really good. Because what do you call it? What do you call a bad car? What do you know?
Yeah, no, that's great. Good job, Josh. I've never come up with a dad joke on my own. But here, let me share with you one of my favorites. Did you know that the inventor of throat lozenges died recently? There'll be no coffin at the funeral.
Boo.
It's terrible, isn't it? There's no joy in hearing a dad joke. There's only joy in telling it. There's only
Well, you get joy in booing it. I mean, everybody loves them, but you gotta groan a little bit, and that's fine. I was trying to come up with one for today on Genesis 40 because you got a baker, so I'm thinking, okay, we got a baker, a cupbearer. Well, okay, a baker, a butcher, a candlestick maker. That's got to be Joseph, and the cupbearer fits with the butcher because what happens to his head?
There you go. Okay.
Just wasn't able to kind of tie the knots together, but that's the framework.
It's it's interesting to know how your brain works. It's like you think primarily in terms of literary devices. That would be one characterization of your mind.
Well, and maybe that's because I'm always thinking about Sunday sermon, and
Hmm.
because I've always got the theological idea that I want to convey. It's just the thing that I wrestle with during the week is what's the easiest way to convey it. It's like a chef. It's like I got this flavor palette, but I need to present it in a way when you look at it, it's appetizing and you actually want to eat it.
That really is most of the battle, isn't it? I was thinking about this in terms of aesthetics generally, with which I struggle greatly. No surprise to you. But like I want, for instance, to have a painting on the wall behind me, right back there. Rembrandt's Calming of the Storm,
Hmm.
one of my favorite paintings of all time. And then on the wall in front of me, which you cannot see, I want to have um, John William Waterhouse's Annunciation. Beautiful pre-Raphaelite painting or post-Raphaelite, whatever it is, 1800s, beautiful painting of the Annunciation. And so I know what I want, but even the like task of size and placement and putting it in relation to other things on the wall, I can't do it. It's really not that's not the way to put it. That's a really difficult task. Like you can't just put it on the wall, right? You have to arrange it properly, and that's what you're talking about in terms of preaching. Like the basic thing that you want to say is simple. It's not complicated, but you have to arrange it properly in order for it to be accessible.
Right, and we've talked about our distaste for Robert Farrar Capon. I don't know if on the podcast before, but here's the positive thing we'll say. Guy sure knows how to present it, and
Yeah,
that's one of the things that he actually says the chief goals of a theologian is to make the lobster appetizing. He says, and I forget we had to read the book in college. His theological arguments are terrible because they're just antinomian. Um, but there's something to be said about reading good writing. That's why I read the New Yorker.
yeah, yeah. That's right. And you definitely absorb it. I have tried at times to analyze it, and found that to be an ineffective way of producing it. Right? To be too analytical about what makes for what makes for delightful prose. You can do it. Like you can learn some things about it, but in some sense, it has to be caught.
Yeah, has to be caught. Heat is faster than cold.
Heat is faster than cold.
Yeah, you can catch a cold.
Okay, all right. Um, is my camera blurry? Am I out of focus? Does it look that way to you?
But you look better that way.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, I don't know
Speaking
why.
speaking of aesthetics,
Yeah. Okay. It's just gonna have to be that way, I guess, because it keeps on focusing. And oh, you can see the. This is from doing
oh,
pose, by the
wow.
way.
Yeah,
That's from
those
doing
are nice
pull-ups.
calluses.
There we go.
Well,
I'm back in focus.
now you're clearer. Well, I mean, if you want to know the truth, the light on top of your forehead was just as bright when it was blurred.
Uh, mhm.
Uh, you
Someday people will ask, why why was he friends with Josh? Why did he tolerate that? And there won't be an explanation. So
it's a perennial question. That's that's fine. You are the light of the world.
hey, I was thinking about seeing as we're just shooting the breeze right now. You asked me my favorite Christmas movie last week, and that was an interesting thing to consider. Um, Related question for you is, what's your favorite Christmas treat? I don't want to narrow it to cookies, but that's kind of the realm I'm thinking about here.
Yeah, well, it's definitely cookies, and I've got two on the top of my head. One, I peanut butter is the best. So, we're a very pro George Washington Carver podcast here. We like we like George Washington too. Anything dealing with George Washington,
Absolutely.
it's great. And for this is a little bit of a tangent, but would you guys quit killing the cherry tree story? It's great. Okay, like, and the guy had wooden teeth, and he was just a saint. Okay, um, was he?
I have to
Yeah.
interject real quick because a while back I listened to some podcast that was trying to decide whether or not George Washington was actually a Christian or like what kind of a Christian he was. And when the takeaway for me was they were examining his correspondence, and basically in every one of his letters, he referred to the Lord Almighty, to God, to Jesus Christ. Like it was his specific doctrinal take on things was not necessarily self evident, but he he thought he wrote in reference to God all the time, and that prompted me to think, boy, I hope that when I die, they look at my correspondence and it's obvious that I at least am thinking about God all the time.
Yeah, that'd be really nice. What you can think about this long term. So he's got his cherry tree story and all that stuff. What's the legendary apocryphal story of Pastor David Buchs going to be one day? That
I think that you're the one who has to compose it. I'll come up with one for you though too. That would be good.
I was going to be like, dude did 29 pull-ups before every service.
Probably need to come up with a more significant number than 29. Uh, that's a pretty
Yeah.
obscure number, but
Well, I didn't. I knew you weren't getting to 30.
all right.
So speaking of George Washington Carver and peanut butter, we call them Ritz dips.
Okay.
They are a Ritz cracker and then peanut butter on the outside, and then dipped in either white chocolate or
Uh,
almond bark,
like
and then sprinkled on top.
completely coated in the
Yep,
chocolate. Yep.
yep, yep. Those are those are so good. And then so every year, my mother-in-law asks, "What Christmas cookies should we make this year?" We're cutting back from what we made last year, and this has been the running thing for like 5 years in a row now. They say they're always cutting back, and somehow we always have more than enough. It's great. But I say I don't care as long as you make the peanut butter ones.
There you go.
And then my wife made these last year, and I think she got the recipe from a member. They're called grasshoppers. It's a chocolate and mint cookie, and it's supposed to be like green and
Yeah.
whatever, look like a grasshopper, but those are really good too.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. What
Solid.
about you? What about you?
Well, my wife makes like a marvelous toffee, and I think it's not just the eating of the toffee, which is delightful, but there's the smell of the preparation because, of course, I don't know all the ingredients, but there's like a substantial amount of sugar and butter that get stirred in a pot for a long time, and
Mm.
that aroma, which is not the same thing as what the toffee actually smells like, it's the preparatory smell. That aroma triggers all kinds of things, and then the toffee has to harden, and so there's like this anticipation. So that's pretty good. She also makes the chicks, those little circular pretzels. They're about this big, and puts a Rolo in the middle of it,
Mm.
and then puts them in the oven. So the Rolos kind of melt, and then presses a pecan on the top of it, and those are amazing. Those are amazing. So
It's pronounced pecan.
So this is really funny. I was talking with somebody down here yesterday because there's a town next town over where Pastor Willie Grills is a pastor, and the town is spelled Avilla. Avilla. How would you pronounce that?
Avia.
Okay, all right. Well, you're just weird. I would pronounce it Avila, but everybody around here pronounces it Avila. And in the context of that very conversation, the person I was speaking to was thinking about the um, town in Wisconsin that has both a Concordia and a Wisconsin Lutheran College,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Wisconsin Synod College. What's that town called?
yeah. That's Mequion.
and this person I was talking to wanted to call it McQuan. And I thought, this is great. This is just, I love it. I love it so much. I mean, we have all this common language, and yet you have to be from the upper Midwest to know how to pronounce Indian names. You have to. And you have to be from Arkansas to know how to pronounce these French names in an Arkansasian kind of a way, because it's just like, it is not at all intuitive to me. It's so interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Wisconsin's the worst. I mean, look at their look at their town names sometimes, and there's a bunch of O's in there. What is it?
Yeah,
Oconomowoc.
Oconomowoc.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck. And then, yeah, we got Faribault here in Minnesota. Yeah, please.
Right.
That's Faribault, please.
That's right.
And if you go down south from Mequon, of course, you get to the great state of Illinois, which I feel
Anyways,
dirty
I don't
for
care what
calling
you
it a
say.
great
I'm going to
state.
call them pecans because I like it.
Okay, that's fine. You seem like the kind of guy who, when you were learning Latin, you got into disputes with whether we should use classical pronunciation or ecclesial.
No, you're completely wrong. I actually don't care at all, and I switch back and forth all the time, and remain indecisive.
That says a lot to you that that you speak Latin in your daily use.
uh,
Wow, good for you. Okay, great Rolos. I'm trying to work this in somehow with Christmas Eve. I think I've managed on lefse because it's bread. Because there is something to Bethlehem being the house of bread. It's like taste
yeah.
and see that the Lord is good.
Do you buy, I can't remember who wrote about this. It might have been like Kenneth Bailey or something like that. That not only
Kenneth
does
Kenneth Bailey's Irish cream.
wait a minute, am I mixing up my names here?
No. I'm making another dad joke.
Okay.
Kenneth
Okay.
Bailey's
Oh,
Irish
all
cream.
right. Thank you for derailing that. Okay, so Bethlehem, you get, of course, House of Bread, and all of the background from the book of Ruth, for instance, as well as the book of Judges, but Ruth is the most informative. So the irony of a famine in a town called House of Bread, right? So good. But then at the same time, evidently there is at the time of Jesus some tradition that the lambs that are used that are sold in the marketplace outside the temple are sourced from Bethlehem. That's where you get your Passover, or whatever, your festival lamb, the lamb that you need for the sacrifices. Have you heard that before?
Uh, no, and who cares about the veracity? Because just run with it.
Yeah, right. I mean, those shepherds out in the fields keeping watch over their flocks by night. These were not like the stipulation would be these are not just run of the mill lambs, but lambs that would have been used in sacrifice. And so they make with haste from keeping those lambs to go and see the Lamb of God, who's going to take away the sin of the world. That's pretty nice.
Oh yeah, I like that. I think my here's my Christmas Eve sermon is I'm just going to take everything that Luther was ever credited with inventing at Christmas time
Like
and
away in a manger.
running with it. That's so great because it just pops up out of nowhere in 1882. Somebody just wanted to publish a hymn in an American religious journal and said, "This is Luther's cradle song. German mothers are still singing this song to their children." Not true. Never happened. No German mother has ever known that song. It gets published and people are like, "Yeah, Luther wrote Away in a Manger."
It was easy to get away with stuff in the 1800s, you know.
Yeah. Well, this is now my favorite tradition is you say that Luther invented something and then you just run with it.
Yeah, there you go.
So Luther said it's Christmas Eve tradition to bring your pastor prime rib.
The only way to truly honor your pastor. Yeah, that's good. I think Luther did say that. It was in his Genesis commentary on Genesis 40, in fact. I think he said it.
Oh, I was going to say it's in Table Talk, which is the only authoritative issue of Luther's works that
Yeah.
I own. But great, great transition. Well, Genesis 40. Now, speaking of Ken Bailey, is it chiasm time?
Oh, I hadn't done any chiasticism on this one. What do you got?
Yeah, actually, it's called chiasm mysticism.
Okay. Hey, but it's okay. I was going to ask you to explain to our viewer what a chiasm is. But that reminds me, I want to say out loud, um, we now have 59 Spotify followers. I haven't updated in a while on this. 59 Spotify followers. Now, Spotify informed me yesterday that for shows like ours, which has to do with like the number of viewers, whatever it might be, I don't know, the distribution of it. For shows like ours, the typical followership is more in the 200s. And so they said you should urge your listeners to subscribe, like, and follow your podcast. So I'm doing that right now. If you listen on Spotify, smash that follow button, hit that like button. If you listen on YouTube, follow our YouTube channel, the Cloudcast YouTube. We only have 23 YouTube followers, but here's the thing: our listenership has been growing, and that is quite in spite of us. Contrary to our best efforts, our listenership is growing. But it actually does help. It does help more people at least get a chance to see if they like us. If you like, subscribe, and follow in whatever venue you're using. So now, for our followers, I was going to ask you about a chiasm. What's a chiasm there, Joshy?
Well, okay, I'll get there, but you mentioned 59 followers. I like it because it's prime. So here's the deal. Two numbers, 61's a prime number, but then you got to go to 71. So let's do the prime number membership drive.
Yes, that's right.
Because after 71, then it's 97. So and then 101. So I think our 2026 listener goal, subscriber count on Spotify will be 101.
Yeah, that's really good. Let's see if we can get. I think we can.
Hey, speaking of 101, chiasms, huh? How's
There you
that?
go. Nice. All right. Perfect.
It's also that's great. My it's weird talking like this, but my last name would be a chiasm. Of course, in word play, you call that a palindrome.
Right. Which is a great Greek word, right? Palin again. What is dramos? No, but in the case,
Run.
run. Okay, it runs again. Mm-hmm.
So a chiasm is just you start and end in the same place, and then the middle also lines up, so it mirrors each other. So the letter would be you go A B C, and that C would be the middle, and then B prime back to A prime. And so it's a literary device. David already accused me of only thinking in literary devices, which, by the way, my YouTube Wrapped said I'm the guy most likely at the party to start quoting David Foster Wallace, which I don't think is true. I don't think I would quote him.
I disagree with that too. You might
But
be the guy most likely to say, when I read David Foster Wallace, but not quote him. I don't know.
I did accuse a speaker at our pastors' conference of having the intelligence of David Foster Wallace, and he took it as a great insult. So that was that was fun.
In the case of a chiasm, I usually say, unlike the kind of linear way that we tend to think, where the most important thing comes at the end, it's in the case of a chiasm in the middle. The middleist thing is the most important thing.
Yep, precisely. So we're looking for C, or however many letters you can have, because that's going to be like the hub of the wheel. It's going to be central, and then all the ideas touch it. And so the chiasm here in Genesis 40 would be you start with the two guys getting judged, okay, because they're thrown into prison. So the two officials are arrested, and then B would be Joseph interprets the baker's dream. C, so this is the middle. It's verse 14 here. It's when he says, "Only remember me when it is well with you." So this is between the interpretations of the dreams. So this is the central idea. Joseph is
Gotcha.
pleading, "Hey, remember me." Spoiler, he doesn't, but eventually he does, just later on. And then B prime would be he interprets the baker's dream, and then A prime at the beginning is the two men are judged, one to salvation, one to damnation.
So this is a really helpful analysis, not only because it gives you the hub, the central thing, but it also helps you to identify the key themes of those preliminary and the preliminary. What do you call the things that come after post-preliminary? Uh, Actually, that's a great word because you would call then the center, the liminal moment, right? It's the a threshold. Okay, so what it does is like you said, that helps us to know that because what's reflected at the beginning and the end is the theme of judgment, right? That's the theme that's reflected at the beginning. And likewise in letter B, the theme is the interpretation of the dream. And so it helps you to clarify what's the important part of that section of the narrative.
Yep, yep, good. Yeah, and so this is where they come up with the word uh, liminal test, and they just shorten it to litmus test.
Is that right? Oh, that's so good.
No, I just made that up.
The litmus paper, right? It's a kind of paper that you use in a lab.
Yeah, to determine the acidity of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, those things could. I don't know. I have no idea if they're. I'm just going for dad jokes today, FYI.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Okay, so this is interesting. So only remember me when it is well with you, and please do the kindness mentioned. And this has always stood out to me because this is the one moment I think in the Joseph narrative where you smell a little bit of discontent with his lot in life. Most of the time, things just happen to him, and he's just kind of like do to do. It's just carrying along. And I mean, I describe it in really pious terms. So I say his life is like this. It's up. It's like a sine wave, but he behaves as if it is just on a level, and nothing gets to him. But here in verse 14, or verse 15 in particular, he says, "I was stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and I didn't do nothing wrong," you which is true.
Yeah, yeah. He's just, this. I mean, he's painfully self-aware. It's honest, and he's not arrogant at all. I don't get that sense from
Right.
Joseph at all. I can't stand when people read it and be like, "Well, this little snot got what he deserved because he told his brothers that he was going to rule over them." Well, wisdom's justified by your deeds, and dreams come from God, and that's exactly what happens at the end of the book. So he's a little Cassandra, is what he is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also really interesting, reflecting on the dreams. So we'll have something to say about these dreams here, but think back to the dreams that he had that he told to his brothers. He did not interpret those dreams for his brothers or for his father. He just told them what the dreams were. Sun and the moon and the stars bowing down to me. The sheaves bowing down to my sheaf. He didn't interpret them. He didn't say, "This means that one day I will be Lord over all of you." And what's remarkable about that is, although in the next chapter, Pharaoh is going to seek after a man who has the Spirit of God in order to interpret his dream, you actually don't need special revelation from God to interpret the dreams that Joseph had, nor do you need special revelation, in fact, I think, to interpret the dreams that the cupbearer and the baker have.
Hmm. Now I think that's a point of contention. Um, okay, maybe at that point it's obvious because so what you're saying is in Genesis 37, it's self-evident that this is what the dreams mean. So his brothers and then his mother and his father understand it. That makes sense to me. But the one thing that I'm struggling with in that statement is, I think this is really key, is verse 8 of chapter 40. Do not interpretations belong to God.
Sure. Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe you don't need like special revelation. Okay, this is a helpful dogmatic category. So we talk about like the two types of like divine knowledge, right? You've got natural revelation and then special revelation, which we would call the Bible. But in both cases, you can't interpret anything without God's interpretation. So even if you think you're going apart from God's interpretation, you're still using the very brain that he gave you, which would be going according to natural revelation, which will only go so far. So sometimes you can clearly say what a thing means by only natural revelation. This is why the pagans can be so smart with stuff.
Okay. Maybe it's a sophistic discussion when the cupbearer has his dream, that there's a positive outcome that will be the result of the dream, or the result of the events. And then for the baker, it's obvious that birds eating the food from the basket is a bad deal. Like, that's no good.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I think that's obvious to us maybe when we read it, but to him, he seems to have some optimism in verse 16, because it says when the chief baker saw that the interpretation was favorable. So was he just hoping against hope that maybe his dream would be good?
That's what it sounds like to me. I'm reading too much between the lines here, but it sounds like he had a sense of what this dream meant, and he was hoping that he was gonna. It's like you got a spot on your arm, and you're hoping that when you go to the doctor, he'll tell you. Somebody else went and got their spot looked at, and then the doctor said it's not cancer, and so you're like, okay, I'll go to that doctor because maybe it won't be cancer.
Hmm. Do you have little kids? Do you keep Sharpies around your house?
No.
Oh, okay. Like that would be the nice hopeful explanation.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I think that the back to his point about interpretations belong to God. I mean, it's evident that the prophetic nature of these dreams is established by God, right? God, like, you can have dreams that are not prophetic, even though they are easy to interpret, right? Like what they would mean, their significance is easy to interpret, but that doesn't mean they're prophetic. Like that they're describing what will actually happen, right? So if you had a dream that 7 skinny cows swallowed 7 fat cows, I would say, Josh, it sounds like that dream means that bad things are going to happen after good things have happened. Good things will happen first, and then bad things will happen. But that doesn't mean that that's actually going to take place, right? It is just like that's what the events are signifying, but they're not prophetic in nature.
Huh. That's interesting. I think you're formed too much by the Bible, which which is good. I mean, that's the only way to be formed, because it's not self-evident to me if I had a dream about 7 skinny cows eating 7 fat cows. Um, I would go more the absurd direction and start to try to interpret it as, oh man, I don't know if I can say this on the podcast. It'll get me in trouble. But something about I mean, you got anorexic cows.
Okay. So you're too formed by modern psychology, is what.
No, all I'm saying is that, like, apart from God's interpretation, like the dreams don't make any sense. So, because
So okay, so
this could just be a Rorschach test. Like we, like apart from God's revelation, like you see what you want to see.
that's certainly true. That's certainly true that you see what you want to see. I think this is actually really interesting to play out. So, because most of the time, do you agree or disagree? Most of the time, dreams are nonsense. That is to say, they are just your brain, like the puzzle pieces of your day, of your conscious thought being rearranged overnight, right?
Yep.
All right. So like, to ascribe significance to dreams most of the time is a fool's venture. Um, it's like trying to make sense of a psychedelic trip. It's like it's like it's nonsense. Um, which is, by the way, which is why I despise Lewis Carroll. I can't stand it. It feels like a dream, except you're awake, and I don't want that. Okay, so but sometimes your dreams are sensible. They are intelligible, right? There's an actual narrative. There's actually, like, there are pieces you can grasp onto, and those are things that you could connect to knowledge and experience that you have had, and then explain why that dream took place, right? Like you can explain why you have this dream and how this dream is an expression of maybe, not to psychologize it, but like thoughts that you didn't realize you had, right? Subconscious thoughts. So it's a revelation of yourself. Um, in the case of these dreams, like take Joseph's dreams, for instance, and I'm borrowing from James Jordan here, but this is a helpful observation, I think. Sun and moon and stars bowing down to Joseph. Joseph knows the word given to Abraham about his offspring being more numerous than the stars in the heavens. He knows they know what stars stand for, what they signify. And so they have this experience and this collective knowledge that makes it self-evident to them what those dreams are about. And that much is clear, right? And so in some sense, it's like, well, if you are formed by the Bible, that will also shape your dreams. Like that will be a part of the um, what's the word I'm looking for? The repertoire that your brain has to work with when it comes to assembling and reassembling the pieces of your thoughts.
Hmm. That was good. So the stars, they knew what they were, going back to the Abrahamic covenant. And again, they can only know what the stars are because that's the very word of God, the
Yeah,
language
so
that
there's
he
an element
used.
of special revelation there. Yeah.
Right, that's good. And I was thinking about, have you heard all these stories about Muslim converts to Christianity? They have dreams about Jesus telling them things and connecting the dots with Islam. And I don't know the veracity of any of it, but hey, if they're becoming Christians,
Yeah, I was thinking about this recently because in the Augsburg Confession, we confess. This is really striking. Um, in Article um, 7 on the church. No, it's Article 5 on the ministry. Through the word and sacraments, as through instruments, the Holy Spirit is given. Oh no, where is it? There's anyways, I'm drawing a blank here right now.
what's
Uh,
the
we may
what's the
we
idea?
we basically say that it is only through the external word that God um, delivers the Holy Spirit.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, that's the. I mean, the enthusiasts are constantly condemned.
Yeah, and so like I was thinking about this yesterday as I was looking at the TLH agenda, which is really great. You ever seen it? The TLH agenda is great.
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got it.
So
I've got it
so
right
for,
here. What color is yours?
mine's black. I just picked up a copy this week. Right.
Oh, how much?
So
How much did that cost? You're presented by
it
the
was
Walther League.
yeah, I know. It was free. Somebody had a spare.
Mm.
Which I really appreciate. There's a lot of really good stuff in here. I was using it in particular because I wanted to talk about funerals for suicides, and there's a prayer particular to the death of a suicide, and the rubric says helpfully when it is possible for the pastor to officiate, which is great. So that acknowledges that there's a question here about whether or not the pastor may officiate. There's also a pastor's daily prayer in here that I have begun to use, and it is awesome. It's remarkable. But the turn of phrase that I'm thinking about, relevant to this conversation and the Muslims and their dreams, is in the rite for at the home in the case of the death of a child, a stillborn or an unbaptized child. And there's this turn of phrase. Let me see if I can find it. It's on page um, 99. Beloved in the Lord, our Savior says in the 3rd chapter of John, except a man be born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. From this truth, it is evident that the Lord has bound his church to the administration of holy baptism. But since the Lord has in no wise bound himself by this ordinance, this word must be understood as such as have had the opportunity to receive this blessed sacrament and despise it, which is great. So that's a really helpful distinction. The Lord has bound himself to the external word. No, bound the church to the use of the external word. So if we want to save souls, if we want people to believe in Jesus, we do not get to use anything other than the means of grace. But just because God has bound the church to that does not mean he has bound himself to that. And that's a really helpful distinction.
Hmm. Yeah, that's that was making me think of reading that paragraph too. People ask, do I have to be baptized to be saved? And I always scoff at the question because it's like, well, if you actually had faith, why would you ever reject baptism? And there's a number of different avenues to go down. People are like, oh, what about the thief on the cross? Well, okay, buddy, he was dying with Jesus in faith, which is exactly what baptism is. So like he doesn't
Right.
like he had the real deal right there. So but then so the example I always give is, okay, mom and dad are driving baby to church to be baptized, and they get hit by a car and baby dies. Well, like God's not going to punish them because they were on the way to baptism. Like they were still obeying God's command to do this, right? And that's how God was going to give the grace. Just like with David's son, who the firstborn of Bathsheba and David, who God killed before 8 days old, right? So David should not have circumcised him, even though David knew that he was going to die before then, because David could have been thinking, well, I need to do this thing so that I'll be saved. Well, that would have been going against the command of God, because you're not supposed to circumcise until the 8th day, and yet David still puts it in God's hands, and he says, well, God's going to be gracious and just.
Yeah, that's a really those are all really helpful examples. I'm thinking about how to articulate it in a way that is not legalistic, because it's possible to be legalistic, or maybe that's not the right word for it, but it's possible to err on both sides, right? So on the one hand, you might say, um, nope, baptism is necessary ex opera operato for salvation, and so only those people who were baptized will be saved. And that's clearly not what the scriptures describe. We know it anecdotally, but we also know that it's not baptism per se that saves you, but it's the faith that receives the benefits of baptism, which makes baptism salutary, right? So when St. Peter says baptism now saves you, what he means is baptism received by faith saves you. Okay. So, but the other error to make is to say, um, well, um, in the case of parents who are taking their child to be baptized and they didn't make it to the baptismal font, God, that wouldn't mean condemnation, because that wouldn't make any sense, right? Or that's not logical, or that doesn't sound reasonable for God to behave in that way. That's a dangerous position to be in, because God there's plenty of things that seem unreasonable to us, right? So the middle way is exactly what you described. It's kind of like, um, uh, we have this confidence that God is going to um, uh, save that child because the parents were acting in faith, because they trust whatever they were doing, whether they were going to take the child to baptism or whatever it was, whatever they were doing it in faith, and therefore God delivers to get the benefits that faith receives.
Yeah. I had this same situation play out. I got a young man who uh, just heard the word of God within the last couple of months, and has been given faith, and it's great. And he hasn't been baptized yet, and we're going through the catechism. And he realized, he goes, I never realized baptism was so important. It sounds like a really big deal. Like we should probably just do this right away. And I was like, yeah, that's great. I really appreciate your enthusiasm. This kind of sounds like, Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch kind of a thing. And I just said, listen, man, like I love it. Let's get through the catechism, because because what I really want is for you to get baptized on the same day that you receive the Lord's Supper. This is kind of just how the catechumenate has worked throughout church history. Not that there would be anything wrong with us doing it this Sunday, but I want to fully explore that faith with you. And then he was like, well, what happens if I die before then? And I was like, well, we're acting in faith.
Yeah. Do you believe that Jesus died for your sins? do you
Right.
do you despise baptism, or do you love it? Right.
Right, exactly. So we're moving towards the baptismal font, and we're not arguing for incrementalism here, but we,
Right.
we have to act with wisdom and all these things.
Right. Well, and the really practical argument there in favor of your position is that in baptism you are receiving the faith that's articulated in the catechism, and so you do actually do acknowledge that in baptism. Um,
Yeah, right. When he's going to answer all these questions, right? Do you know it's the
Hmm.
devil? And do you
And
believe?
what's
Do you
beautiful
believe?
about that is, when you think about like the scope of people who might be baptized from infant up to adult, uh, it's completely sensible that you would expect them to know it in an age appropriate way, which is why we don't do any catechesis for infants, because they're going to know it in an age appropriate way. But a 5-year-old, well, he doesn't need to do all of the things that you're doing with this guy, but he does need to know it in an age appropriate way.
Right. So just like with a 5-year-old, I modify the answers of the questions. So rather than having them, because they're not at the reading age yet, so they're not going to be able to say yes, I renounce him, or yes, I believe, or all of that. So what I just tell them to say is, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you're going to say yes. And
That's right.
it's the best thing in the world too. When you walk through those questions with them, and they have that childlike yes.
I There was a sweet little girl at church yesterday, and I asked her. I said, "What do you like to do?" And she says, "I like to draw." And I said, "I'm terrible at drawing. If I was going to learn to draw something, what's the first thing I should learn to draw?" And she says, she looked me in the eye and she goes, "Jesus." It's like, oh, this is great.
I I think I've asked you this on the podcast before. Little children ever called you God coming out of church? And I
Yeah,
think you said yes.
Jesus. Yeah, yeah.
Jesus. Okay. Yeah, I've got I got a member, a little boy, 2-year old. He thinks I'm Jesus, which really says a whole lot about the office of the ministry. And so for Christmas, like he's convinced that it's my birthday. And yesterday was my birthday, and I hated it, but the congregation sang me happy birthday after church. And he comes out and he's like, "Happy birthday, Jesus."
Great.
And it
And
really it really reminds us like what we're doing. Like when you say like, in the stead and by the command of my Lord Jesus Christ.
yeah, that's right. That's one of the things I loved about this daily prayer for a pastor. There are tons of, I don't know what was recommended when you were at seminary. Was Doberstein was still being recommended
Yeah,
by
yeah.
in the whatever the classes or field ed class. The pastor's prayer in the TLH agenda is uh, majors in the significance of the role that the pastor has, and how unworthy, how unfit we are to it of our own nature, right? You have called me to be that I should be holy and blameless before you in love. You've given me all of these things. Um, you have called me, a poor, unworthy sinner, to be a servant of thy word, and have put me into that office which preaches reconciliation, and have given me charge to feed this flock. In and by myself, I am wholly incompetent to perform this work of this great office. It's just like I do want to say that every day. And therefore I pray thee, make me an able minister of thy church.
Mm.
And what's beautiful is that when the kids say things like that, or like this is similar was I was telling the ECDC kids about David, and I said, "My name's David." And one little girl goes, "No, you're a pastor." And I was like, "Well, I'm glad that's great that you recognize that, because in and of myself, I'm wholly incompetent to this task. But out of the
Mm.
mouths of babes, you have confessed that Jesus is doing something greater than me through this office, right?"
Yeah. Mm. It's great. We got a good office. I love the pastoral office. And huh, for such a time as this, not worthy, but he put us there. Hey, so you got a baker and a cupbearer. Let's be Lutherans and interpret this Eucharistically.
uh, that doesn't work though. How do you get around the fact that the one comes under judgment and the other doesn't? Is this in favor of communion under one kind, because the cupbearer is the one who lives and the baker dies? No, it'd be the opposite.
Well, yeah, because then you'd only be taking the cup, which I don't think anybody's ever
Right.
communed one kind with just the chalice. Well, so here's the connection. I mean, I was trying to think in more broad terms with like bread and wine throughout the Bible, and obviously Melchizedek brings bread and wine to Abraham. But then, like, bread goes all the way back to Genesis 3. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat bread. So, like, bread's always been associated with death. So, I find that the baker dying actually fills out that theme. He's dying, giving bread.
Oh, interesting. Um, that reminds me. I think that the word bread came up in the last chapter, um, with Joseph in Potiphar's house. Um, so he left all that he had in Joseph's charge. This is verse 30, the 39, verse 6. And because of him, he had no concern about anything but the
Oh, but the
food he
food.
ate. And I think
Yeah.
it's bread, yeah, about the lechem that he ate.
Oh,
Um, that's really interesting. So he's got charge over everything which is represented by like the food he ate.
that and that's a really damning thing that Moses is writing, because when all you're concerned about is food, that never plays out. So you're thinking with your stomach. So this is what Isaac was thinking of when he wants to bless Esau.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah, Lechem. Well, that's good. Bethlehem. So I mean, Potiphar's house is a house. It's a house of bread.
It's a house of bread. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Huh, that's okay. And then the cupbearer. So these are two fundamentally different foods, but they're similar, bread and wine, because they're basic. Like every culture has bread and wine. So I think that's part of the universal nature of the elements in the Lord's Supper. But bread, you can make relatively quickly. Um, if you don't use yeast, any leavening agent, it can be made instantaneously, right? In the Passover.
That's interesting because I see what you're going with here, that wine takes time. Although in this dream, he takes the grapes directly and presses them into Pharaoh's cup. So you could have something that is like wine without yeast, right? Because yeast is what makes it into wine. And you can have it now.
Yeah, but it takes the entire Old Testament to ferment into Jesus's blood.
That's good. Well, no, that's really good because it takes a. Ah, I've wondered about that, about these kind of degrees of transcendence for things, and so you've got like how an animal would eat bread, would eat the constituent parts of bread and wine, right? An animal, you tie your donkey to the vine and it's just going to eat the grapes straight off the vine, right? You put your animal in a field and it will just eat the grain straight off the stalk. Humans cultivate these things. So we add yeast, we add leaven, and you produce wine and bread of a higher order. And then there's a higher order still, which you get a glimpse of when, for instance, God feeds the people the bread of angels in the wilderness. But
Hmm.
there's something higher still. Um, and then, like you said, I mean, it takes all the way until Monday, Thursday to ferment grapes and grain into the bread and wine of the Lord's Supper, the
Ooh.
body and blood of Jesus.
Yeah, this is why Luke 22 is the best passion scene. I have earnestly desired with great desire.
I've been waiting for
Epithumia,
this.
epithemesa.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this to this. Oh man, I mean, that makes complete sense. That is completely sensible to people of like sophisticated taste. Not me, but people of sophisticated taste who have a bottle of wine on their shelf from whatever, some long time ago, or a 25-year Scotch or something like that. Right?
Ver- Right. I think I've told you this last year on Fat Tuesday. It's Pastor Bruce Tim and my tradition to drink scotch on Fat Tuesday, because he fasts from alcohol during Lent. I don't drink enough to call it a fast. So, but he does. So we enjoy scotch, and I had Lagavulin 15-year, and he had Lagavulin 8-year, and we did some comparing and some contrasting, and the price differential, I think it's about double in price, and we came to the conclusion that we are not sophisticated enough to taste the difference, so just save your money.
Yeah. But that's good but you can understand why there's a price difference, even if there's not a taste difference, because that's a long-term investment, right? To put something in a bottle and not sell it for 25 or for 18 years, 15 years. That's a
Right.
long time.
Yeah, so it's like at the wedding at Cana when he's got the 20 to 30 stone jars full. It's like he makes it instantaneously, but in a sense, like this wine has been brewing for 4,000 years.
That's the answer to the silly evolutionary question about how it is that we can have light from stars that are so far away. It's like Jesus made wine in an instant that only exists through a process that takes time. So
Right, yeah, and like how old was Adam and Eve when God created them?
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Hmm. Now I'm really wanting the sacrament on Christmas. Oh, did you want to talk about this on
Yeah,
the
sure,
podcast?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's think about seeker sensitivity, huh? Or practical pastoral considerations in dealing with guests. So I'm in favor of, at least at the present moment, in favor of having a Christmas Eve service that doesn't celebrate the Lord's Supper, so that there's an opportunity for people to invite their family and friends, and there's no confusion about whether or not they may receive the Lord's Supper. Um, I can imagine a scenario in which even if you celebrated the Lord's Supper, there wouldn't be confusion about it. It wouldn't be confusing or problematic for folks, but it definitely is in our day, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's say that you're a Catholic priest and you're in central Minnesota and everybody coming to Christmas Eve service is nominally Catholic, then, celebrate my friends. So celebrate away my friends,
Yeah, right, right. As opposed to like what it can feel like to folks. And again, this is not the end all be all, but I think it's a relevant fact. What it can feel like to folks is, well, why did you invite me to your house but not give me dinner? Right, which is like, I think it's nice to have a service to which you can invite people, and you're not not excluding them, right? So you can have a work Christmas party, and everybody can come over and have some snacks and a drink, but then that's different from your family Christmas, where there are going to be gifts given, and we want to do both things.
Oh, that's good. Good. Yeah. So the family Christmas thing is really helpful because that's the most intimate gathering. And so for you to invite somebody over to that, you're saying, hey, you're like family.
Right, right. Which is,
Okay,
of
good.
course, that's the goal. That's what we want to do in the end, but you have to do it properly, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So the goal is to get everybody to join the Christian family and partake in the Lord's Supper. But we're clearly not there yet. And then the practice would be then on Christmas Day, which is when uh, the faithful family shows up. Then you celebrate the Lord's Supper.
Yeah, I think so. And then and that, I mean, maybe this feels like a technicality, but it is kind of like, we're not neglecting the celebration of the Lord's Supper on the day of his incarnation, which would be weird, right? It'd be weird not to have the Lord's Supper at the feast of the incarnation,
Right.
right?
It's a preparatory service for
Sure.
the relay. Yeah, it's Eve. I was just thinking of a an anecdote that our one of our professors said, and talked about a guy marrying a Catholic gal, and he was it his wedding or was it ordination? He on purpose celebrated the Lord's Supper and then made it a point that like he was gonna do it, and the rest of the family like they weren't invited because they were Catholic, which doctrinally is true, but it's like, man, like you what you don't have to have the Lord's Supper at your wedding. You don't have to have it at your ordination. It just seemed
Right.
like he was looking for a way to give an offense, and the story goes he was out of the ministry in a few years.
Yeah. And that goes back to, Jesus is offensive enough. You don't need to add to it with your own offense. That's a great line that you gave from your
That well,
sermon.
well, they yeah. So one of the listeners, I attended his ordination service, and it took 2 hours, and I had driven 3.5 hours to get there, and I had a fantasy football draft that night, and so if you look at this young man's ordination picture, I'm not in there because I left. I'm just airing my grievances. Okay, you know who
Uh,
you are.
that's good.
Now that being said, you can celebrate the mass at your ordination. I have no issue with that. That's fine. I'm sounding like a district president, which is I'm disgusting myself.
Okay. Uh, um, Okay, now explain that though. So,
No, no, I don't, I
what?
don't, I don't want to.
I think because I mean, what that it is actually a helpful thing to observe that there is this element of, and it's not unique to district presidents, although there is something about being as, as many will identify themselves, synodocrats, right? There's a bureaucratic element to that position, which involves um, diplomacy of a sort that is uh, can at times feel disingenuous, right?
Mm.
And I think pastors are tempted to this all the time as well, right? So you are dealing with somebody, and there's a thing that is obvious that needs to be addressed to you. It's obvious to you, but there's also a question of like prudence and timing and whatever it might be. And so it's tempting to say things in a way that um, uh, kind of sidesteps the issues, or that like leaves matters open that shouldn't be open, or at least gives the impression that there's more um, openness than there actually is.
Hmm.
What do you think
Mhm.
about this? I was listening to somebody talk about conversation and avoiding being confrontational, avoiding being adversarial in conversation. And the speaker said, you should just never use the word but. And I agree that lots of people use the word but to be adversarial. In fact, the word but, did you know this, is called an adversative conjunction? That's what it's called. So you say, I think the Minnesota Vikings are the best football team. And I say, but they've never won a Super Bowl, right? That's adversarial. And so the argument was, you say the Minnesota Vikings um, are the best football team, and I say yes, and they've never won a Super Bowl, right? So the idea was, by saying yes and you're soft, like you're making yourself more accessible. It's easier for the person to hear what you're saying. Frankly, it sounds like a lie to me because I
That
don't mean it.
that comes across as way more sarcastic than saying it's like the Wonka meme where he puts his fist on his. It's like yeah, and I you can't work. So my 2-year-old, we're eating breakfast on Saturday, and she points at her face and goes, "These are not my butt cheeks."
Ah,
and
that's
I
good.
I go, "Yep, those are your face cheeks." I've never been so proud.
I love it.
I the tact thing can only be so far. It's like go so far. Like my basic parameter is like just like don't be a jerk, but like don't overthink things either. Like just be yourself. And that's taken a lot of pressure off, especially when I realize that like it's the word that only can convert people, right? I don't worry anymore if I like had the exact right phrasing. That's not to say so I'm trying to craft the best thing that I can. That's true, but I'm not worrying if it's going to convert somebody because I put it in the right conjunctive, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and it overlooks the fact, like to be concerned about phraseology, overlooks the fact that in the end, there has to be an element of trust, and the way to be regarded as trustworthy is by actually um, by being sincere, by extending goodwill, right? And
Yep.
there are times when that's misunderstood, right? So if I say something to you and I mean it in the best possible way, and you hear it the wrong way, and we have no rapport, I actually can't do anything about that. But the fact is that for anybody who's sincere, like, and let's say pastors who are sincere, if like anybody was willing to give you like any amount of time, that would become obvious. It would become obvious. That also means that you have to watch out that you never react emotionally to something. Like you can't be reactive, and you can't treat people as some human, or not without human dignity. You can't ever do that, because then you lose all credibility,
Mm,
100%. But you can't force credibility where people aren't interested in receiving it, right?
right. Yeah. Yeah. So the whole disagreeing thing at times, it's like if I'm going to disagree with you, it's because I respect you enough as a human, created
Yeah,
in the image of God. If I never said anything, then I'd be like I was treating you as subhuman and say, hey, you're not even worth regarding.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, what very often happens is if I like try to say things in just the right way to make you go away, that's terrible, right?
Right, precisely. Yeah. Okay, wrapping up Genesis 40 here. The whole thing seems to be about judgment, and I see here a mini parable of the sheep and the goats. So it's Pharaoh who is deciding. He's separating the baker from the cupbearer. Cupbearers and the good judgment comes first. So in Matthew 25, it's the sheep who are separated first, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so you get the good judgment first, and then the bad. But then so the question then for Joseph is, what's his judgment going to be? Is he going to be regarded as the baker or as the cupbearer? And then to make it more personal is what's God going to say about you? Like don't be afraid of what Pharaoh's going to say. Like don't fear the one who can destroy the body, but fear the one who can also destroy the body and throw the soul into hell.
Yeah. That's good. Hmm. See, another parallel to Matthew 25 is that there's a sense of ignorance on both the part of the cupbearer and the baker. They kind of like they have no idea what the outcome is going to be. They both had committed a crime, right? They had both gotten themselves into trouble, right? For some reason. Oh, he was angry
Yeah.
with both of them, right?
Yeah, you wonder what that is. Is like did the bread and the wine taste off that day?
Yeah.
And if they both taste off, it's like maybe he's got an allergy, you know. Like it's internal. This is the old King Henry VIII starts killing his wives because they're not giving him a son. It's like, dude, you produce the X or the Y chromosome. Cool. Hey, what's anything grinding your gears before Christmas Eve?
No, nope. Just looking forward to it. It's really the most wonderful time of the year. Second to Holy Week, but it's a very different vibe, if you will, and I love it.
Hmm.
I love it so much.
Good. Hey, that encouraged. I love Christmas too.
Yeah. What about you? What's cooking?
Well, so I'm on. I almost am finished with book 6 here of Dark Tower series, and I gotta say, I think this is controversial, but this has got to be my favorite book so far out of them. And maybe it's just because Stephen King goes what the kids call meta, and he inserts himself into the story now, so his characters travel through time and actually talk to Stephen King. About the
Wow.
story that's been happening, and it's very very reflective on his part, and you can tell he's very self-aware, and you can only do this in a story if you've got some cachet, which clearly he has. So like I totally respect the move. So that's been fun. And then I read a few pages of this. This is a Christmas present from a member, and this member's got me pegged. It's called Truth's Consuming Ecstasy by Sean McDonough. It's a subtitle Literary and Philosophical Investigations of the Apocalypse of John. This just came out this year, and I think I'm gonna love it because he's exploring Revelation, but through the lens of Plato and Wittgenstein and Yeats and Tolkien and Bulgakov and Balthazar, and
Wow.
it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Maybe this might be actually it's you from the future. You wrote this book and this
When there's a dad joke on page 49, then I'll know.
yeah, then we'll know. Okay. Excellent. Well, have a
Hey,
very Merry Christmas there, Josh.
yeah, yeah. Hey, Merry Christmas to you.